This is routine 102 of the vector game. It starts out by setting xg and yg to 500 and 205, which is going to use down here in this vector action. Then it sets the direction to 240, that's going to the right, and then it sets the size to the current track size. Then it makes the values of x and y for that direction and size. Then it says, well, I'm going to add now the track speed to the track size. That's the size of the vector. In other words, it's going to either increase or decrease the size of the vector. And then the very next line says, branch if less than 330, the CC, go down here. But if it's above 330, which is its maximum amount, or it's going to go off the right side of the screen, it changes directions and sets negative track speed to track speed. Well, down here the opposite thing happens. Once it starts going back to the left, if it's greater than 0, it's all right, but if it's not, reverse the track speed again to be going the other direction. So that's for the movement. Next, it sets LS control register 1, the NS control register to NG, which is 80, the number of points around in a circle. Then it says take the points that were made for the circle, add to every one of them the XY position to create circle X and circle Y. But before it comes down here and uses them, it says, but if the show vectors is equal to 1, meaning it's the show vectors, not the circle, it goes to CG. But if it's to show the circle, it comes down here and sets the number of points for this dot P, which is to be put in ZS, is the value of 80. Then it makes all the dots to make the circle, makes the color black, and then says polyfill, fill in that circle. Well, I'll go to the screen to execute it. That's this black circle. Now I've highlighted another part of the routine in green. It sets the value of A to 960, that's the number of directions in a circle, divides it by the number of sides, so it gets the value that it has to change each time it makes points going around the circle. Then it says R, direction to 0, the size to the poly size. Remember, these two parameters were randomly selected. Then it sets J to 0, and then it says for I of 1, and down here next I for the number of sides there are. This J is always going to be 1 less than I. Here then it sets the list here for X and a list for Y to the vector value given the direction and the size. Then it adds to the direction the value of A, which it calculated up here. So it makes all the points on the polygon. Then once it's done that, it comes down here, sets L control register to 1, the N control register to the number of poly sides. That's going to tell it how many values here in these lists it's supposed to add X to, and then here add Y to it. It's going to take these values made here and add the XY position. This is the same XY position that it found up here for the circle. The circle and the polygon move together, so they need the same XY positions added to them. But then it checks to see if the vectors are being shown. Well, they're being shown when show vectors is equal to a 1. Well, when they're being shown, you're not supposed to show the circles or the polygons, so goes to CI. But if you are supposed to, it sets Z to the poly sides, and then does a dot P to this hold X and hold Y that we figured out there, and then it's going to get it the dots to make the polygon in that particular XY position, and it's set to color, red, fill in the polygon. Alright, this is the end of routine 102 for the vector game.